Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. We are extremely excited to have Michael Huddy and Amy Fandel from the Student Financial Services Office here with us to give us the inside track on financial services at Harvard. And Michael and Amy, thank you so much for coming, and I will let you take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Danielle. And
Yes,
thank you, everybody.
thank you.
We're glad that you were able to join us. Our presentation, we have a small, short, formal presentation, be about 15 minutes, and then we'll allow plenty of time for questions. We do have one question break kind of in our presentation for things that we've just talked about. And then again, lots of time for questions after the presentation has ended. We think that will be the most helpful. So just wanted to share a slide. This is kind of our agenda for today. So hopefully you're in the right place. And these are the kind of topics you came to learn about. We want to start with just a quick overview of student financial services, especially if you're new to the extension school or just taking one of your first or second courses. The model is very common, but not every school follows this model. So we manage the following areas: things related to billing and payment, tuition. We also offer the payment plans, of course, the financial aid component, and we also oversee benefits like for veterans and active duty military tuition assistance. So just a little bit about ourselves. So again, my name is Michael Huddy. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services and Financial Aid. I've been in financial aid for over 20 years, almost 25 years, 20 years, but I've been at Harvard for the last 10. And I'll give Amy a chance to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Amy Fandel. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at DCE. And like Michael, I too have been in financial aid for well over 25 years. So collectively, I think we've probably got about 50 plus years of experience here. And hopefully we can impart some of it to you.
And Amy's been at Harvard for most of her time, if not all of her time. So she has a lot of Harvard background, which has been very helpful.
Yes.
Harvard, as you know, is a unique institution in many ways. So great. Thank you, Amy.
Yes.
All right, so let's get right into our presentation. We wanted to start with some three financial aid myths that we wanted to share. Some of these maybe you've heard of and maybe not, but these are very common, again, in our experience. The first myth is that you won't qualify for aid. And we always say, you won't know until you apply. So the moral is, please apply. It's free. It's relatively simple. We'll talk more about this in a few slides. So don't believe the myth or don't believe your friends. Fill out the application and then see what happens. Then you can make informed decisions. Another myth is that it's not worth the time to apply. I mean, again, this depends. You don't know until you apply. So we always encourage, students, prospective students, fill out the application, fill it out on time, and then wait and see what happens. And then again, you can make an informed decision about what your eligibility is and how you want to fund your education. But we really think that's a myth. We want everyone to apply. Another myth that we've heard is that people are convinced they have to borrow a loan in order to get a grant being free money and a loan being money you borrow and pay back. And that is not true. If a school said that to you, that is not true. It's definitely not true at Harvard at the Extension School. You do not have to borrow in order to get a grant. If you're eligible for a loan, if you choose to borrow and how much you choose to borrow is entirely up to you. We want to talk a little bit about some of the basic eligibility criteria for financial aid. Some of you may be familiar with this or you've seen it on our website, but we wanted to give a quick overview. Of course, you must be officially admitted to a degree program or the pre-medical program at the Extension School. You can apply for financial aid at any time. You don't have to be admitted to fill out the FAFSA or apply. We'll talk more about this shortly. And so we encourage you to apply usually in your last semester of your pre-admission courses, and definitely by the party application deadline. And we'll talk more about this shortly. You must be a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen to apply. There's much more to be eligible for financial aid. There's a lot more information about these categories on our website under the Paying for School section. The one exception is that for extension school funding, we do allow students who are in DACA status, that's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. If someone has that status, they are eligible for consideration for institutional money only, not federal or state. And there's also instructions on how to apply via our website. You must maintain satisfactory academic progress. That just means you have to be in good academic standing. Financial aid is to help you achieve your educational goals to get your degree. And if you're earning failing grades or not completing courses, that could impact your eligibility because you aren't making progress. And again, there's a whole policy on our website. This is a federal requirement. We have to have this policy. But hopefully most, if not all of you here will not be impacted by that. You have to not be in default on any previously borrowed federal loans. That's fairly straightforward, but if you've borrowed a loan before and you are not current, you are flagged and you'll have to resolve that before you can be eligible for federal student aid. And of course, this is just a highlight section. There's a lot more information on our website, but those are kind of the top criteria that we wanted to apply to mention. Certainly the admissions process at the extension school is very different from other schools, and that's a big point of confusion. And so we have to remind folks that you must be admitted to be eligible for consideration, but you may apply at any time in the process, especially as you're nearing as you're ready to be to apply for admission. So we mentioned the financial aid application process, and we can break it down into 3 major steps. It begins with the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA. You can do this online. Some of you have been doing this for years. Some of you may be doing it for a child or children or sibling. So you complete it online and you do it every year. The thing to remember is that it can take up to 5 business days for processing. And that's important because we don't get your data electronically until your FAFSA has been processed. Why that matters is for step 2, which is our financial aid application supplement. This is in the financial aid portal, which is available through my DCE. It's really getting the FAFSA that kind of activates or creates your financial aid portal. So if you can't get into the portal, make sure you've done the FAFSA and make sure it's been, at least 5 business days. Make sure you added our school code to the FAFSA. If you didn't list the extension school, we're not going to get your data. You can just go back in, add it, wait 3 to 5 days, and then we'll get it. And the third step is really to check the financial aid portal and see if there's any information. If it's required, it'll be listed there. We have a whole section that will tell you what's required and what the status is. And so you can keep track of your financial aid application pretty much 24/7 by using the financial aid portal. I alluded to earlier our priority deadlines. These do not change. These have been these deadlines for as long as I've been at Harvard and probably as long as Amy's been at Harvard. So you can see them on the screen. These are also listed on our financial aid portal. They're also listed in the how to apply for financial aid section. So if you can remember June 1, November 1, and March 1, you're in good shape. If you forget, you can always ask us or check the website. As mentioned earlier, if you're not yet admitted, we recommend you submit your application by the party deadline of the term in which you will be admitted. So say you're finalizing your final admission course now in the fall semester and you plan to apply for the spring term. As you can see in the chart, the spring application deadline, party deadline is November 1. And so you'd want to aim to have your application complete by then. The FAFSA opens much earlier. It opened in October last year. So basically you've had a whole year to apply, to submit that to meet this deadline. FAFSA is opening in December for next year, but that's a different topic. We wanted to quickly share a overview of the financial aid funds available by program, since we do have 3 different programs, and the funds can differ by each program. You'll see all 3 programs are eligible for the extension school grant. That's based in part on financial need and part on applying by the deadline. But all ALM, ALB, and pre-medical program students are considered for the extension school grant. You'll see only the state grant in Massachusetts is for undergraduate students. That's how that works for the state. And at the federal level, you'll see the federal loan programs are available for eligible students at each category of student. The federal Pell Grant is only for undergraduate students. We realize that can be challenging, but that is a federal regulation. We have no power over that. So if you're an ALB candidate, your eligibility for the Pell Grant will be evaluated. The loan programs, as they are available at pretty much all levels. A couple of things though, you must be at least enrolled at least half time to be eligible, and you must have not borrowed more than the loan limits. You can read more about these types of aid funds and by program on our website. There's the direct link there. Just go under the paying for school financial aid part of the website, and then there's a whole page on the different types of financial aid by program, much more detailed than this overview slide. And then we wanted to share some quick highlights about the Extension School Grant. As I kind of mentioned, it is free money. It doesn't have to be repaid. It is based on financial need, and you must submit your application. It must be completed by the Party A application deadline from the previous slide. As mentioned, graduate students are not eligible for Pell Grants. They aren't eligible for the federal direct subsidized loan that is only available to graduate students. You really don't have to worry about this because when your aid application is evaluated, only the aid that you have eligibility for will be presented to you. But we just wanted to share some of the highlights because it can be confusing when different programs have different aid eligibility. The enrollment considerations, as I mentioned, in part depend on loan eligibility, since you must be at least half time, but also other items like the Extension School Grant are based on your actual enrollment. And so if you said you're going to be full-time and you are awarded aid at full-time, but you only sign up for one class, you may still be eligible for aid, but it will definitely need to be reevaluated. We wanted to share a quick summary of other ways to pay. As noted, SMS oversees the payment plan option. This is a 4 installment plan per semester, so you must enroll every term in which you wish to enroll. There is a $40 non-refundable enrollment fee, but you are able to spread your remaining balance over those 4 installments. This is also helpful even if you're getting financial aid, because maybe you have some grants or some scholarships that are outside, but you don't have enough to pay your balance in full, but you don't want to borrow a loan. So depending on your situation, you may want to do the payment plan. That way you don't have to borrow a loan, pay any origination fees or interest, and you can just slowly pay over time. So it's just one more option for degree candidates. We always like to mention to check with your employer. We know many of our extension school students, especially degree candidates, are working, maybe full-time, maybe part-time, maybe you're a full-time student. But if you are working, you may want to check with your employer, check with HR. Do they have some kind of tuition benefit or reimbursement? That will vary from employer to employer, but we know even as Harvard employees, we have a tuition benefit, so it can be very helpful. So we always suggest checking with your employer. Certainly, we want to encourage you to look beyond the extension school for funding. So what we call outside or private scholarships. This could be through a company, it could be through a philanthropic organization, it could be through a community group, you name it. So we've listed 2 resources here, fastweb.com and Big Future from the College Board. So those are reputable scholarship search engines. You may certainly use your own search tool and look for scholarship that way. We always suggest be careful about the source. Make sure no one is asking you to pay a fee to look for scholarships. You should be able to do it yourself. And I would say make sure the scholarship isn't just a marketing tool. I've seen this before where the organization says, oh, submit an essay, submit a drawing. Oh, but we get to keep it. The property is ours. We own the copyright. And of the 1,000 people who submitted an application and this work, maybe one of you might get a $100 scholarship. I wouldn't consider that to be super legit. So use your judgment. But as mentioned, FastWeb and Big Future are ones that we can recommend that you can use to search. Final option for other ways to pay is private student loans. These are generally for admitted students, a second or secondary loan option. We always do look at federal aid first. The federal loan programs generally have better interest rates, better benefits, and better repayment and forgiveness options. But if you have good credit, if you have a relationship with a bank or credit union, depending on the economy and interest rates, you might be able to get a decent deal. So they are a resource, but we would always suggest, if you're an admitted student, look at federal aid options first, and then look at private student loans as a secondary option. So we realize that's a lot of information, but we'll take a quick question break. If there are any questions that you would like to ask at this point, particularly about the things we've just covered.
Michael, thank you. We have one question from the chat from Leonardo asking about eligible non-citizen options.
Let me look at that question. Who are eligible non-citizens? An eligible non-citizen could be a refugee, could be an individual who has been granted asylum in the United States. Those are 2 of the main categories of eligible non-citizen. This is also outlined, like the criteria are outlined on the Extension School website as well, but generally those are the two big categories that we see, refugee and asylum status.
We also have a question from Greg asking where he can look for study abroad scholarships.
The places that Michael had mentioned and referenced on the slide, FastWeb and Big Futures from the College Board. You can search whether it's for study here or a study abroad program. Both of those would be excellent places to create a profile and do searching. Our advice would also be that you do need to plan ahead when searching for private scholarships. You definitely want to be doing that, 6 months before you are hoping to use the funds. A lot of them, it's plan ahead, and the deadline issue could be a factor. So, but those two are really good. We have found over the years, FastWeb and Big Futures from the College Board really weed out the things that Michael was referencing, the things that are just promotional or scams. So those would be our suggestions.
From Nathan asking for the 4 payments, is that to be paid before the start of the semester, or is it to be paid during the semester?
It's throughout. It's during. It's over the course of a term.
Thank you. And Andy asked, if the application start date is November 1st, how are we able to apply for priority by November 1st? Might have gotten the dates confused, so maybe just a clarification on that.
Oh, that's not the application start date. Applications are open right now, so you could get if you haven't already done so, you could leave this conversation today and go complete your 23-24 FAFSA, and we would get it in a couple of days, and then we would follow up with you with the email, showing giving you access to the portal and anything, and then following up with you with anything else that you need to submit. So application, as Michael was saying, has been open for the 23-24 year since last October. That's our mid-year priority deadline for students who are getting admitted to programs with the completion of their fall courses. So in January, that's why we have 3 deadlines, because there is rolling admissions at the Extension School. If that helps to explain that. If not, please let me know and I'll explain more.
I also received a question privately. If a student faces an unexpected financial hardship during the semester, are there any emergency resources available to them?
It's going to depend on that student. I'm assuming in that scenario, the student is an admitted degree candidate and otherwise eligible for financial aid. But the Extension School doesn't have designated like emergency grant funds. The answer to that is unfortunately no, we don't have that. But the individual student may not have already utilized all their federal resources. So it would really be something that, and we would encourage that person to reach out to SFS via email, because if they are an admitted degree candidate and they already have an application on file, someone from my team, one of my staff members would already be assigned to their case. If they're an admitted grad student or an admitted bachelor's student, they could work with their aid officer to see if there's things that they haven't already utilized that they could be utilizing. So hopefully that answers that.
That's great. And Amy, for that one, it did come in when you were talking about payment plans. So while it didn't specify, I'm wondering if maybe there are any options to like defer a payment plan or something along those lines if you come up with an unexpected hardship in mid-semester.
I can take that one. The payment plan is very fixed. Unfortunately, it's one size fits all. So it has certain start and end dates. The payments are due at fixed times. So it really depends on the timing. The payment plan opens at registration and it closes 2 weeks into the start of the term. So if something happened, in that time period, a person could enroll in a payment plan. Once the payment plan window has closed, that's a system setting. We can't open it up for one person. So unfortunately, that's not an option at this point.
Got it. Thank you. We also received another question from Nathan asking, what is considered to be half time as a graduate student?
Okay, so DC defines half time as 8 credits per term for fall and spring semesters. Unlike other schools, at the extension school, halftime for grad and undergrad is the same. And, you know, that is our office, that is a decision made by the registrar's office. And so our office must be in agreement with their office. And so halftime here is 8 credits per term for fall and spring, and full-time is 16 credits. It is different in summer term, but and it is only because summer terms is smaller set of weeks, only 7 weeks. So halftime is 4 credits for summer and full-time is 8, but it is the same for grad and undergrad.
Thank you. And a question from Marina. I looked at FAFSA, but it states it's being updated and will not be available until December 1st. Does that change the deadlines, or is the previous form used?
Well, currently we're in the middle of the 23-24 year. So that is the FAFSA to be using if you're applying for the spring of 2024. The FAFSA that you're referring to is for the next academic year, which is the 24-25 year. It does get confusing because the application cycles overlap. So the cycle we're in right now, as I'm saying, is 23-24. So that's the FAFSA to be completing, because this year started with fall of 2023, the term we're in. And then the next 2 terms in the 23-24 year are spring 24 and summer 24. So the FAFSA that hasn't opened yet, the one that opens December 1, is for the following year. That's for fall, beginning with fall of 2024 and beyond.
And we received another question specifically with regards to the extension school grant, if that factors in money paid for child support, and just looking, I think, at other mitigating circumstances.
I'm trying to read this. Okay. I mean, the child support paid is something that you would be reporting on your FAFSA. And so I guess it's going to depend.
This might be a question better served by a special follow-up afterwards.
Yes. Yeah, this is a very, what I would say, I mean, I will hold on sort of addressing that because we do have more slides, but I think in this situation, this is an example of something that's coming in slides about if I have special circumstances or my financial circumstances change. So hopefully I'll be addressing that in a moment. If not, we'll circle back.
Thank you so much. And it looks like that is all of the questions that we have from the chat for right now, if you want to continue. And then if anybody does have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or send them to me privately, and we'll make sure that they get answered at the end.
Okay. Okay, are we ready to move to the next slide? Okay, the 5 things we want you to know. The first thing on this list, these are just, you know, these are just things that I asked other members of our staff, things that they feel that they do get asked about a lot. So that's kind of where we came with these 5 things. First being, inform SFS when your academic or financial circumstances change. An example of an academic change is if you're currently awarded financial aid for the upcoming, say, for example, spring 2024 semester as a full-time student, and you're considering reducing your enrollment status from full-time to half-time. This type of change, we would encourage your student to reach out to their financial aid officer to find out how reducing your enrollment status from full-time to half-time would impact your eligibility for financial aid, ideally before making that change. We always encourage and try to remind students that changes to your enrollment status can be very impactful to your financial aid eligibility, and try to stress the proactiveness of asking about those changes, especially during open reg time, before making a change. Number 2, read emails from SFS. We understand and acknowledge that you are probably receiving many important emails from the various offices at DCE. We simply wish to take this opportunity to mention that emails from SFS usually contain timely reminders about items such as deadlines or policies, information that's generally pertinent to maintaining your eligibility for financial aid. So that's kind of just why we wanted to highlight that here, is that often our emails are transactional and not marketing in nature. We're usually telling you very targeted things, and just wanted to take a moment to point that out. Number 3, pay attention to deadlines. Apply on time. Submitting your complete financial aid application by the priority deadline, for example, June 1st, to receive financial aid in both fall and spring semesters of the coming year, allows it to be considered for the best aid options, including our Harvard Extension School grant. Applying by the priority deadline also ensures that you will have anticipated aid posted on your student account prior to the payment in full deadline. Number 4, the financial aid portal is available 24/7. And we mention this because it really means that you have access to the status of your financial aid application anytime, as well as the financial aid supplements to be completed and other forms, all of which are available for download anytime from the Extension School website. So really, you could complete your application at 2 a.m. if you wish to. We just really wanted to mention that, and it's very accessible, making it as easy as possible. Number 5, once your FAFSA is processed, the federal student aid will send you an estimate of your federal aid eligibility. We just wanted to say, please keep in mind, this is only an estimate, which does not reflect other eligibility factors such as admissions or enrollment status. Some people, this may be getting ahead. You may have not done a FAFSA yet, but we simply wish to point out that you will receive this estimated federal aid eligibility, and it is often based on full-time and full-year enrollment when you get that estimate from the federal student aid program. So it can be misleading. Hence, it is not taking factors such as admissions or enrollment status into that determination. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. What if my financial situation changes? Report special circumstances such as loss of job, significant medical bills, major income change, or marital status change to the SFS office. In most of these circumstances, a student may submit an appeal with supporting documentation to have their financial aid eligibility reevaluated. My staff and I are available to respond to these types of situations and walk a student through what is needed in an appeal based on that student's set of circumstances. So kind of alluding to the question that we were asked, these are very situational items. And so what is needed from an individual in an appeal or documentation wise is really going to depend. So it's really a conversation to be had either by a phone appointment, an in-person appointment, a Zoom appointment, over email, if that's how you're comfortable, to really go back and forth over what should be in an appeal. And it doesn't automatically mean that your aid eligibility will change, but these are things that we're always willing and able to look at to see if your aid package could change. Next slide. Finally, on this slide, we just wanted to point out again, resources available to you. Listed here are some of the resources available to assist you in applying for financial aid. Our office, Student Financial Services, is always available, largely by email at studentfinance@extension.harvard.edu. We answer emails I think very promptly, try to do a 2 to 3 day max turnaround time, sometimes same day if we can, to keep on top of that, because we are aware it is one of the largest ways that students communicate with us. The financial aid portal, as we already mentioned, available through your MyDCE login and account. As the slide shows, when you're logged into MyDCE, you click on the menu on the top left corner, and there you see financial aid portal, which is circled in yellow, and that gives you access to the financial aid portal for completing your application. Of course, the Extension School website is always a great resource at extension.harvard.edu. A lot of the things we've covered today are on our paying for school and financial aid pages you'll see there. Federal student aid at studentaid.gov is also a great resource of all kinds of information. Really, not only for completing the FAFSA and for understanding the various federal programs, such as the loan programs and the terms and conditions and interest rates. There's a lot of other information there. And again, the outside scholarships, we recommend FastWeb and Big Futures at the College Board. So that's kind of our presentation. We certainly take more questions at this point if anyone has them.
And you can feel free to raise your hand or put it in.
Raise a hand or yep, exactly. Yep. At this point, you can certainly raise a hand or put it in if anyone has one.
Looks like we may not have any additional questions. Oh, wait, there's one. Mark asked if there are any remote teaching assistant employment opportunities.
Are there any? I'm not sure I understand.
I would say we have no idea. We don't handle that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so I wish we just don't know everything about everything. So unfortunately, that's beyond our scope. Our office does not handle teaching assistants, and so I'm not sure where to direct you, unfortunately. But it's not student financial services. You could try to reach out to enrollment services, and they could probably direct the question to the correct office.
I think more generally, are there work study opportunities available for extension school students?
My answer? I'll go. Yes. So unfortunately, the extension school is not we do not have work study funding. It's not allocated to us. We do not have that to give out as a resource. I mean, that's largely why that is largely because our courses are far more flexible than the non-traditional college and the other schools where they take place during the day. Our tuition is the cheapest. So largely those allocations are going to the other schools where the tuition is much higher and students don't have as much flexibility to work during the day.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I'm not seeing any other questions unless
if someone thinks of something, you can always email SFS. We provided the email address, and if you think of something after, please send an email to us. Try to answer as quick as possible.
Well, Michael and Amy, I will say thank you so much. This was extremely informative and helpful, and we really do just greatly appreciate your time and all of this information. And I know that a lot of people find it very helpful and useful. So thank you so much for your time today.
Sure. And I just, before people sign off and leave, if the individual who did write the very particular financial situation, I don't want to call you out personally. I just want to say I'd love to connect with you either via email to talk about your situation further, and perhaps you can submit an appeal. So either email SFS and we'll follow up with you just so that we can. I don't want that to not be addressed. So since that was a very particular question.
I just want to thank everybody for attending, those coming now, those watching later, and to Danielle and the Student Association. Thank you for asking. We always want to support your efforts, and so we're glad to take some time to hopefully share some helpful information. And you don't remember it all, but if you can remember a few highlights and then say, oh, I should go look that up, or I should talk to SFS, then I think we feel our job is, our goal has been accomplished. So thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.